So we kept developing the car well into the season, and of course when you have limited resources, then that's research and development. You're not pushing into this brand new, very new car for the new regulations.
Well, you know what they say, 'tis the season. Everyone is very hyped up for the new revelations and the new designs that F1 teams are supposed to get out to the public around February, and it seems like Red Bull is going to dominate the sport yet again. After what they accomplished in 2022, they're hoping to build on a successful model for the following season, but they'll face stiff competition from Mercedes and Ferrari. Furthermore, because of the reduced time spent in the wind tunnels, they will not have enough time to develop the car. Red Bull has found a pleasant surprise for the 2022 season, mostly because they've been able to absolutely dominate the rest of the grid with how they managed to pull out machinery that doesn't bounce. They were the only team that didn't experience the aerodynamic phenomenon of porpoising, which caused Mercedes to lose a significant amount of time. This was largely due to the presence of Adrian Newey, who's been involved in the sport since the first ground effect cars were introduced in the 1980s. However, the 2022 season is in the past, and while Verstappen was able to clinch the second consecutive title and Red Bull won the first Constructors' Championship after a long pause from 2013, they need to think about the future. With that being said, they've already been warned by Mercedes, as the Silver Arrows have reportedly fired up the W14 or the 2023 version of their car. To add to this narrative, Ferrari seem to have fixed the issue with the engine of the car, with Steiner saying that the engine for the 2023 season is the bomb. That leaves us with a question. What is Red Bull preparing? Well, strangely enough, Red Bull seems to wait until the last possible moment in order to reveal information about the RB19, which is largely rumoured to be the name of the 2023 version of the car. But that is yet to be approved, just like the design of the car. However, regarding the latter thing, we've been able to witness a couple of sneak peeks, and before we go to them, let's see what Helmut Marko has to say regarding the 2023 version of the car. We have a tradition at Red Bull that we don't really finish the car until the very last moment, but the concept of the car is already there. We can indeed build on a very successful 2022 car, where of course sitting with this reduction of hours in the wind tunnel, that means we have to work very efficiently as a team. All the things we try out have to hit the mark immediately. That was the case with last season's car as well, and while AlphaTauri has already determined a date for the reveal of its car, Red Bull is patiently waiting in the shadows to see what its rivals have prepared. Now we'll get over to Ferrari's car as well to compare which team has made more progress in the off-season, but let's start with the RB19 first. As you might expect, Red Bull doesn't need to make many changes to their car because they dominated much harsher and stricter rules in 2022. The challenge presented to them should be much lighter and easier to conquer now that they have new regulations with increased floor height and diffuser throat. Still, one thing that Red Bull has massively struggled with is the overweight of its car, and while we were supposed to see the implementation of a much lighter chassis from Singapore 2022 onwards, that didn't happen. That's why many have started to speculate that Red Bull will implement the new chassis on the 2023 car, and now that the weight limit has been lowered from 798 to 796 kilos, the lighter chassis will help the RB19 shed an additional 3.5 kilos. This has been reported by Paolo Filicetti, who apart from talking about the lighter chassis, also reported about some new changes that are set to be seen on the RB19, with him further adding, "The gearbox, thanks to a different placement of the suspension element, will present a lower narrowing, increasing the section of the Venturi channels. The layout of the sides will maintain strong points of contact with the 2022 car, but will be characterized by refinement of the double bottom." Obviously, everything is a rumour up until this point, and Verstappen was one to deny these rumours quickly. When talking about this matter, the two-time world champion said, "Well, I don't know where these rumours permeate from, but no, there's no plans to introduce a lighter chassis. So you know, we keep going, we're in good shape." When it comes to the new season, Red Bull definitely has an advantage because no matter how much the technical regulations change, the ground floor effect car remains the same, and Red Bull has managed to dominate the season despite a very strict regulatory onset. Still, the other teams aren't going to stand in the corner and wait for Red Bull's era to end, similar to what happened with Mercedes from 2014 to 2021. That's why Ferrari and Mercedes have also introduced some changes, and they're hoping that the sporting penalty that that Red Bull received for the 2023 season will severely hurt the Austrian team's aspirations in the new season. Ferrari's 2023 version of the car is currently labelled Project 675, as they've been looking to fix the reliability issues for the next season. While they stopped developing the 2022 version of the car in the middle of the season and are focused on the next season, it's not a given that they will produce a bomb of a car and suddenly manage to beat their rivals. To be completely fair, Ferrari had an amazing engine for the 2022 season, probably the fastest one out there. But the technical regulations and reliability issues, as well as the tactical blunders, played their own part in the 2022 season, which is why it ended the way it did. For the next season, Ferrari is introducing a new gearbox, which will hopefully improve the car's ability to handle more power. This was done primarily because the engine is rumoured to have 30 horsepower more than the 2022 version, as stated by Günther Steiner. While Binotto is no longer the leader of the team, he spent a massive amount of time fixing the reliability issues for 2023, which is why Vasseur won't encounter these kinds of problems in his tenure at Ferrari. On top of that, La Gazzetta dello Sport wrote about Ferrari's 2023 car, adding that the car will be narrower due to an aerodynamical concept that will be largely different. Obviously, if Ferrari wants to introduce a new gearbox, that will require some changes in the body shell, which is exactly what they're doing in this moment. With the car not porpoising due to the new regulations, and with 30 horsepower more to their engine, Ferrari will be the fierce competitor of Red Bull in 2023. Now remember that Red Bull was able to pull out a huge straight line speed advantage compared to Ferrari and Mercedes, and apart from the porpoising that wasn't present in them, the fact that the Honda power was too much for Ferrari and Mercedes was also present. Now it seems like Ferrari is addressing all of these issues, and Red Bull won't have the advantage they had in the previous season. On the other hand, they have the talent of Verstappen, the leadership of Horner, and the brain of Newey, which we saw in 2021 was more than enough to dethrone Hamilton from his championship reign. Rest assured that Red Bull is a team that won't fall back so quickly and swiftly, and now it's up to us to wait and see when Red Bull is going to reveal the magnificent car for the 2023 season. If we were to look at the previous pattern, the cars were revealed a week prior to the first day of the winter test, which is why we should expect the revelation date to be around February the 16th, and it's very likely that they're going to be the last team on the grid that will reveal its car. That isn't really important to the media or the fans. What is important is to see if the sporting penalty will hurt the team or if they won't feel any repercussions from it. Mercedes introduced a couple of upgrades in the second half of the 2022 season that saw them being equally competitive to Red Bull, so the Austrian team should be concerned that the W14 car could be a fierce competitor to them the following season as well. After all, Horner did say that Mercedes should never be deleted from the competition, and they'll be back sooner rather than later. So, what do you think about the new design of the Red Bull car? Do you think that they're going to dominate the sport? Let us know in the comments down below.